Hello and good evening. Filmed this one a little bit later today, just because my neighbour's been having a post-apocalyptic rave all day, so it's been a bit noisy, so I had to wait to film it a little bit longer. But firstly, let me say thank you very much to everyone who's watched. I had a look not long ago and there's been 100 odd views, so thanks Mum. 100 times sitting through that is quite a lot, so cheers to you. I've had a few comments as well, a couple of questions. I've replied to those actually in the comments, and I had someone else message me on Instagram, so I replied to them. So I hope that's solved what issues they had. But yeah, other than that, today it's going to be a little bit of a kind of an equipment run through. I know I said yesterday that I was going to try and make the process as simple as possible, you know, so people didn't have to buy anything, because it can be the kind of thing that unless you really get into it, you know, there's no point in buying loads of equipment. An example would be I went on a ski taster to the Chill Factor, and I ended up pricing up some ski boots. Haven't been since, so don't waste your money on ski boots or sourdough equipment if you're not going to use them. But yeah, with relation to the starter, some of you might be a little disappointed that nothing's happened yet, but don't worry. This is what we had yesterday, and it pretty much looks exactly the same as it did yesterday. That's nothing to worry about. We're probably not going to see, I mean there's a teeny tiny bubble in there, but we're probably not going to see anything for another 24 hours yet, so don't worry if you think you've done it wrong. You haven't. Oh, and speaking of the starter, just for those of you who watched the video all the way through, Mum, the starter now has a name, and that name is Clint Yeastwood. So congratulations to, well, my brother-in-law. Thanks for naming the starter. Thank you to everyone else who commented with what the starter should be called. But yeah, so I'm just going to get through to a bit of equipment now. So yesterday I kind of showed you some of these. These are proving baskets, bannetons, or you know, that kind of thing. These are just ones I've collected over the time I've been doing it. These are my home ones, so I have a few more at work. But yeah, so if you haven't got one of those, or you don't think you want to buy one, mixing bowl, absolutely fine. What we're going to do anyway when we bake is line this with a cloth, so you're not really going to miss out much other than a bit of a swirly pattern, you know. So you can see they're about the same shape, same size, that kind of thing, and you're going to get the same loaf really. Same with the long basket there. If you've got a loaf tin, it does the same job. So don't worry about getting any equipment, any fancy stuff. One thing you might want to get, because they're quite inexpensive really, a lot of the time you can pick them up for £1, couple of pounds. Disclaimer, there are other large multinational capitalist corporations available. Amazon Basics do a very good dough scraper. Yeah, these are just a couple of things that they're going to help you handle the dough. But you know, if you've got a good palette knife or even a fish slice, I mean, I've never tried it, but it's probably going to work. What else have we got here? So this is a baker's lane. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's another French word, I think. Don't quote me on that. And it's basically a fancy holder for a razor blade. So when we're going to score the bread, when we bake it, that kind of does a couple of things. One, makes it look nice, and two, it allows it to expand further. But yeah, so I have one of these. You pop a razor blade on the end, and that's how you score. Again, not essential. A good kitchen knife, nice and sharp, preferably serrated, is going to do the same job, so don't worry about that again. And then the last thing I was going to come to is equipment for the actual bake. So if you've looked into sourdough at all, you're going to see that a lot of recipes will recommend a Dutch oven, which is kind of a heavy casserole pan, cast iron. They work very well, however, again, not cheap. And at the time that we are living in at the minute, things aren't arriving when they're, supposed to, and things like that are no one's fault at all. So, ordering one might be tricky. So, a couple of solutions. One, we're not going to use one. I use a baking stone. So just like a pizza stone that you might get garden centre, whatever. They're not open, so don't go. And I use an upturned casserole pan. And I'll show you this setup later. Probably before we bake, I'll do a video on setting up how to bake. Because the last thing you want to do is have your bread ready to go and not be ready. Because that's when you're going to run into problems and burn yourself, because everything's got to be very hot. So if you've not got a baking stone, a good kind of thick baking tray is really going to be very helpful. It doesn't have to be non-stick. We're going to line it anyway, so don't worry about that. And then we'll come to covering at some point. I might even try and do a video without doing a covering, using another method of baking in case people don't have a big pan or can't get hold of a Dutch oven. But yeah, so not a lot to see with the starter today. It's just busy kind of trying its best to ferment away. So I thought I'd just go through a few bits of kit. And that's about it really, just a bit of an overview of what's coming up, and a few bits of kit that if you want to, or you already have, or you get your brain thinking, oh, what am I going to do that with, and what am I going to do that with. Just a bit of an oversight really. So anyway, keep an eye on your starters. I'll keep Clint in the corner, keep him happy, keep him warm or thereabouts, and hopefully by tomorrow I'll be fermenting a little bit. And yeah, so that's it. So I'll sign off now and say goodbye, happy baking, well, fermenting at this point. Any questions, leave them in the comments below, and probably going to do a video tomorrow once Clint's up and running and we're at the stage where we need to go on to the next step. I'll post another video. So that should be a couple of days. I hope that yesterday's video wasn't too boring, and today's video wasn't too boring. It really is doing me a world of good. It's keeping me nice and occupied. I went on a literal crash course of video editing yesterday. It took me 5 hours to edit that video, roughly. So thanks to anyone who spent the time watching it. And like I say, if you have any questions, post them below. I'll answer them. And yeah, see you later.